don't think it's ever been the case in recent history where more people are having panic attacks. And no wonder, right? With all that's going on in our world today, at least in the United States, you go to the grocery, there are no groceries on the shelves. I'm hearing daily about shutdowns and about quarantine, and everyone's scrambling to get things together and figure out what's going on and how they're supposed to live life. And on top of that, you have this threat of getting the coronavirus and what it's going to do to you, and possibly even kill you. So that's a lot, right? But how can you stop panic attacks from happening? What can you do to get control of them? Well, that's what we are going to look at today. And this is going to be part one of a series looking at panic attacks. So today I'm going to give you mainly an overall picture and of what you need to do, what is the best method for controlling panic attacks. Hi, my name is Tawnya Kordenbrock. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor and online emotions coach, where I help women to rewire their brains to be able to overcome fear, anger, low self-image, so they can love themselves, feel loved by others, and have a closer relationship with God. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and also look in the notes because I have a link to a free resource for you that I will tell you more about later. The first thing that you need to know about panic attacks is, in order to get control of them, is that you have to be proactive. You actually have to do something to make them stop. They aren't going to just stop on their own, most likely. They seldom do. And instead, what they tend to do is get worse and worse. So you have to take some steps to change your internal environment and to approach life situations differently. Because panic attacks don't come from out of nowhere. There are specific reasons as to why they are happening. And in this next part, that's what we're going to look at. What is it that causes panic attacks? We're going to look at 4 different elements that play into the causes of panic attacks. The first one is overwhelm. And on the surface, it may seem obvious that, of course, when you feel overwhelmed, you might have a panic attack because you don't know what to do. But really, what I find with people who have panic attacks is because they don't notice when they're overwhelmed. Instead, they push their emotions down and try to just act like they aren't feeling anxious, try to act like they're okay and they can just move on with life and the same way they always have, or that they rush ahead to try to figure things out. And so they don't pause enough, long enough to notice, oh my goodness, I am really feeling overwhelmed right now. A second element that feeds panic attacks is the feeling of helplessness. And you can, imagine, like, if you are backed into a corner and you feel like you can't get out, you feel like there's nothing you can do, that it would definitely increase the fear within you, increase your heart rate, and give you that feeling of helplessness, and so that you feel panicked. And so this oftentimes plays into panic attacks. And again, I find that people don't always recognize this feeling of helplessness. And I think one of the reasons is because sometimes it's related to relationships. That you may feel like in your everyday life, or perhaps in your work, that you feel competent, you have a plan, you're working your plan, you're doing your everyday deal, and you're good. But what I want you to consider is the significant relationships in your life. Are there relationships, or is there one relationship that is important to you that you're feeling fearful about it, that it's not going well and you don't know what to do about it? You feel like you have no choice in the matter, or that things are unseen and you don't know exactly what is happening. And that can contribute to that overwhelm, but also that helplessness feeling can sometimes really just grab your heart and increase the fear that you are feeling and cause you to go into a panic. The third element we're going to look at is what's going on with your body, your health. Or if if you're having poor health, and you don't have a lot of energy, emotional energy, physical energy, or you're tired. Perhaps you didn't sleep well last night. That is going to make you more susceptible to feeling that overwhelm, to feeling that you have no choice, that you're helpless, and that will feed into the likelihood that you're going to have a panic attack today or in the near future. The fourth element is going to be a little bit more complex, so stay with me here while I explain this. So this element is the panic cycle. Because here's what happened. It happens if you think about it. For instance, I used to have let me give you an example. I used to have panic attacks when driving in my car, going down a hill, a specific hill. And as I was beginning to go down this hill, my heart rate would increase, and I felt like I was losing control. I got stiff all over. And so I was having those physical reactions that were beginning. And then as the physical symptoms came, then my beliefs kicked in. And that belief that I'm going to lose control. I can't handle this. And then in my imagination, I'm seeing myself careening down this hill, going into the other lane on this highway, crashing in headlong into the other cars. And so I didn't do this because I couldn't, it was on my way home from work. But a lot of times what you will do then, for instance, if you are entering the church building, coming into church, and you sit down in the last row because if you're going to have a panic attack, you want to be able to escape. But anyway, you start having these symptoms that you can't hardly breathe, your heart is racing, you might break out in a sweat, and then you have these beliefs that arise, you imagine what's going to happen. The belief that you're going to die right there, or you're going to pass out. You're imagining this is going to be so embarrassing. People are going to think you are crazy, or that you're stupid, that you're really losing it. And so then you leave. You immediately get up and get out. And it feels like even that everybody looking at you can tell that you're having a panic attack. But normally people cannot tell when you're having a panic attack. But anyway, so there are the three pieces to a panic attack cycle. First one is the physical symptoms. So think about your own physical symptoms when you've had a panic attack, of what happens, what happens to your breathing, what happens to your heart rate, what happens, do you get tense in your body? Do you feel weak all of a sudden? Do you break out in a sweat? So oftentimes, okay, the oncoming of those physical symptoms are what alert you to having the panic attack, that the panic attack is coming. Now, the first time, it's going to be unpleasant, but then the next time when you feel it coming on, then that's going to be worse because, well, okay, let me back up. It's going to be worse. Okay, because you're remembering what happened last time, okay? But then also the second element is those beliefs that are going to come with that. You are going to make an interpretation of what these physical symptoms are. Oh, here it comes. This happened last time. I couldn't control it. It was so frightening. I thought I was going to die. Maybe I'm going to die this time. And then that is, and you imagine again, I must be crazy. People are going to think I'm crazy. And this is so embarrassing. And then you have your behaviors. That's the third part that goes with it, your behavior. And normally that behavior is to get up and leave or to avoid the situation that you feel is causing the panic. And then after you leave or after you withdraw from the situation, well, then you feel better, right? Okay, so that is the panic attack cycle. Part of it, you have the physical symptoms that kick in your beliefs, that kick in your actions. Now, once that has occurred one time, okay, because you withdrew from the situation and then felt better, that reinforces within your mind that that's the solution. It reinforces within your mind those beliefs that you can't handle it, that it's beyond your control, and that you have to avoid the situation, or if you are in the situation and you're having these symptoms, then that means that you have to leave or something really bad is going to happen. And so that cycle, when it occurs, that's one reason why panic attacks tend to increase in intensity the more frequently you have them, because it's triggering that belief that you can't control it and that it's going to be bad. And then you're reminding yourself, look, they're even getting worse, they're getting more frequent. So the solution isn't to leave the situation, but it's to break down this cycle. And we'll talk about that more actually in my next video. But let me move on to just some things that you need to do right now. So what can you do to take charge of panic? The first thing I want to tell you is to limit the amount of information that is coming to you. So, for instance, in this time of coronavirus fears, we are inundated with news clips and live reports and all kinds of information about coronavirus. And it can overwhelm you. It is a lot. And so you need to be careful of how much exposure you are having to this. Limit it to, for instance, once a day, where you are finding out the information that you possibly need to know. And as it goes along, then you may not even need it once a day. It may be every couple of days or even once a week. But also, even in a time not like this, you also need to limit all of the activities that are stressing you out, and as much as you can. But there are, if things are weighing on you that you need to take care of, see which ones you can take off of yourself right now. See which ones you can set aside until another time, when you can give it more devoted attention and figure out how to proceed with it. The second thing that you can do is to take steps, to take some action on the things that are overwhelming you, and to take some small steps. Perhaps you don't know the whole picture of how things are going to turn out, Most of us usually don't. But if you can take a step for today, just actually accomplishing something, a small piece of a larger project or a larger problem, can give you a sense of calm, can give you a sense of that you have some control, that you have capability to make things turn out the way that you want them to. So taking a small step is a good thing to do. And try to keep it, keep your mind in the moment and what you can do today. And notice when your mind is trying to go off into the future and fear about that. But keep it on today of what you can do today with this problem. And then concerning your relationships that possibly are overwhelming you or causing you a sense of helplessness, learn some good, healthy boundaries. And I do have some teachings about that if you want to check those out. And practice telling people what it is that you need. I need some space right now. Tell them how you're feeling. I'm feeling really ignored right now in this relationship. I'm not feeling safe in this relationship. I'm feeling fearful about what's going to happen to us or what's going to happen to you. And try not to approach it with anger, but instead to approach the other person with those deeper feelings that perhaps are a little more vulnerable. Because that vulnerability, that is what is feeding into the panic. But if you can bring it out into the open and talk about it, then that can bring some calm. It can calm that inner anxiety that's going on. The third thing you can do concerning your health and your sleep, obviously, you want to get better sleep and try to create a nighttime ritual that will help you to be able to sleep better. That's not always possible, but try your best with that. And then as far as your health, sometimes we just have to limit what we can do, and we tend to take on more than what we can do despite our health not really being up to where we need it to be in order to do all these things. So sometimes we have to make some hard decisions and look at ourselves and what we really can handle. So that might be contributing to that overwhelm, that you've taken on too much thinking you can do it, even though your health cannot sustain that. Now in my next video, I'm going to explain to you the fourth thing that you need to do, which is to break down that panic cycle and to understand what it is like for you and make changes to it. But that, like I said, that's going to be its own separate video. So I hope that you will check that out when it comes out. And also, I do have a free resource for you. This is a list of calming activities that you can do. They can help with that sense of overwhelm and just bring some peace inside of you. It's a list of activities that engage all of your senses. So be sure to get signed up for that, and I will put a link for it below. And also you will get updates from me when my next teaching comes out and other teachings that I have. Hope you are hanging in there and getting by right now. Thanks for joining me.